Joining us now, we haven't spoken to him in a while. He's one of our favorites. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best in the business, talking baseball for the worldwide leader. It's Jeff Passan back on the program. Good to see you, Jeff. How are you?
This is my first time on since you've come back home, isn't it?
I think it might be. I don't know. True, it might be. It could be. It is. Listen, Jeff, my first question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being ecstatic and 10 being out of their skulls ecstatic, Major League Baseball is what after this World Series, Jeff Passan?
I would say probably an 8.
Okay.
And yeah, how can you be anything but ecstatic after that World Series? Right. It was just, it was the culmination, Rich, of an October that to me illustrated and displayed everything that's great about baseball right now. You had stars performing at historically great levels. You had individual and team performances that were beyond expectations. And you had more series than ever go the distance, including the World Series, which I've covered 22 of them now, I believe. And it's hard to say that any of them have been better than this one. Now, I was still in college back in 2001, and certainly that one gives 2025 a run for its money in terms of this century. And my first World Series was 2004. Historically, that was a big deal. 2016 had an awesome Game 7, and the outcome with the Cubs winning for the first time in more than a century was great. But just in terms of like pure baseball and the things that happened in the series and the quality of the games and the players who were involved, it's really tough to beat this year between Los Angeles and Toronto.
Yeah, and you know, at one point I think I posted out, Jeff, that this World Series ran out of things I'd never seen before. And there's 2 moments that will live, I think, in nightmare fuel for Blue Jays fans until they get a chance to win it again and actually pull it off. I kind of want to pick your brain on the backstories of it or what people are talking about it. And the first one was that moment in Game 6 when Barger hits the ball in the talk about game of inches. It wedges in between the bottom of the padding and the warning track. And there's a lot of talk about how this should not have been a dead ball. This should have been everybody keeps running. And instead, this was improperly called a ground rule double and dead baseball. What's the scoop here on that, Jeff?
I think it was the right call. I mean, you saw that photo. If you guys can bring that back up again, just look at the way that the fence has moved. There's a little indentation at the bottom, and part of it has been pushed up. And was it wedged to the point where Justin Dean could not have reached in, grabbed it, pulled it out, and thrown it back? No, it turns out. But I don't think John Tumpain, who was the umpire in left field, could make that determination from his position. What he saw was a ball that looked like it could be stuck there. And in the moment, you have to make a judgment call. And the judgment call that he made there was that it was a dead ball and that it was an automatic 2 bases for Addison Barger. And it's, you know, you talk about game of inches with football. Baseball feels like a game of millimeters, man, because in addition to that, in the 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, in Game 7, the difference between Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's foot hitting the plate and that one spike on the bottom of Will Smith's shoe going down and touching the plate. I mean, it was, you see it right there. Like one spike. That is the difference between the Los Angeles Dodgers remaining alive and eventually winning the World Series and the Toronto Blue Jays walking it off and being World Series champions for the first time since 1993.
And Major League Baseball being the first major sport in this 21st century of instant replay, awarding a championship
decided
on a reversal of a call of an umpire. That was in the ether as it was going down. And that's the second play I was going to bring up to you, Jeff. What is the backstory behind Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's lead off of third base? There's so much talk about there wasn't any secondary lead and why he wasn't taking it. And then we all know his decision to slide foot first, not head first, not run through the plate when it was a force play, not a tag play. Jeff, what's the backstory that you heard about that one?
There are a few different elements that we have to talk about here, Rich. And I think it actually goes back to game 6 and goes back to Addison Barger being on second base and a line drive gets hit out to left field. Kike Hernandez charges it. Barger makes a bad read, gets too far off the bag and gets doubled off to end the game. And I think that sort of thing informs just how conservative the Blue Jays were when it came to the 9th inning of the next game. And Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is on third, bases are loaded, and Max Muncy is a couple of steps off the bag. Now, typically speaking, hitters are told to take a lead about equivalent to the distance between the third baseman and the bag, with the idea being that if a line drive gets hit to third base and the third baseman snags it, you do not want to be further away from the bag and run the risk of getting doubled off. Now, Dalton Varsho was at the plate. Dalton Varsho does not hit the ball to the opposite field. Doesn't matter where it's pitched. And so that wasn't quite as big a concern, but Carlos Febles, the third base coach for the Blue Jays, walked to the line and put his right foot down and pulled it back while still on the ground, essentially saying to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, this is where you need to end your lead. And it was not as far as Max Muncy. They were playing very conservative at that point. But beyond just the potential for a double play is the potential for a back pick too. If you take a larger secondary lead, Will Smith could theoretically throw behind and try and pick him off at third base. That being said, the lead is as egregiously small as it was. That's not the issue. It's the slide, but guys play on instinct, Rich. And your instinct from all of the reps that you've had throughout your career is going to be to slide into home plate and not to run through. So the question of should he have slid head first as opposed to feet first, that's reasonable. I get that. But man, it's just such a hard thing in the moment. And yet those very minuscule decisions that are made in the moment are the differences between a championship and an absolutely heartbreaking loss.
And then, you want to talk instinct, Jeff Passan. Dave Roberts' instinct, my goodness, his spidey sense in games 6 and 7 in particular were off the charts. Why did he decide in the middle of the 9th inning with Yamamoto on the mound to insert Andy Pages into center field? Because after this IKF play came the moment that I will never forget. Kike Hernandez will never forget. Dodger fans will never forget. Why was Pages inserted when he was?
Before I answer that question,
yes.
Did you know that Kike Hernandez, when he was laying face down on the warning track afterward, do you know why he was face down like that?
Go for it.
He thought that the ball had fallen, and he thought that the World Series was over. And Pages said to him, "What are you doing?" And Kike said to him, "We lost." And Pages was like, "No, we didn't."
Isn't that great? Unbelievable.
We did not. The answer is because with one out and the potential for a sacrifice fly to end the World Series, Dave Roberts understood that he needed his strongest armed outfielders out there. And so that's why Andy Pages, who has a tremendous arm, came in, because and they were playing relatively shallow, right?
Yes.
So that's why you saw when they were going back the way that they did, why that Ernie Clement drive to the left center field gap was as tenuous as it was. But yeah, it's knowing your personnel, and it's understanding that every little maneuver that you make can add a minuscule sliver to your win probability. And in this case, the minuscule sliver turned out to be an absolutely enormous boon to the Dodgers championship hopes.
So you're saying he was brought in for the possibility of throwing someone out for a second out that was IKF anyway, and he just happened to be in the game for the third out. He was just in
this. Well, this would have been throwing him out. So let's say with one out, that instead of Dalton Varsho hitting a ground ball to Miguel Rojas and Rojas corralling it and throwing home to get IKF, let's say Varsho hits a fly ball to center field. you're going to have a play at home plate then. It's going to be a different play. That play at home plate was a force play, but if you have a fly out before that, then you're going to have a tag play at the plate, and you'd better have a perfect throw home if you're going to get Kiner-Falefa.
So an 8-2 World Series
Correct.
saving out as opposed to a 7-4 double play that forces a Game 7 on a broken bat to walk it off. Like, again, this World Series, brother, unbelievable. In the fact that Rojas was in it all. In it all, right? I mean, in that pick play.
And he was in, Rich.
Right.
He was in because Andy Pages can't hit.
I did.
Like, Pages had been in the lineup games 1 through 5 and pretty much every other game. And the Dodgers' versatility is what helped them here, because Tommy Edman, who they had kept out of center field because of a lingering health issue, they were like, you know what, lingering health issue or not, we cannot have Pages' bat in the lineup anymore. And that's precisely why Pages was on the bench, available to come into center field.
All right, Jeff Passan. So what's next for the Dodgers to three-peat? What rostering is first up, first order, anything, or they're going to be able to run it back? What do you got for me, Jeff?
They never run it back. They always are looking to add. And the scary part, I think, for fans of anyone other than the Dodgers right now is not only are they returning Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow and Shohei Ohtani to their rotation, not only do they still have Emmett Sheehan and Justin Wrobleski and Roki Sasaki, who, by the way, is still going to be a starting pitcher. River Ryan coming back from major surgery. Gavin Stone coming back from major surgery. And what this allows is for the Dodgers, between that and their surplus of minor league outfielders, to go out and make a trade and try and get a big chip from somewhere. I don't know if that's a closer. I don't know if that's an outfielder, but those are the two obvious places that they need to address. I do not think they're going to be heavy in on Kyle Tucker in free agency. I think that he's the sort of guy who they might approach in a similar tack to what they did with Bryce Harper, half a decade back. Like, hey, we'll give you a very high number on a shorter number of years. But Kyle Tucker, because of his age, because he understands this is his big bite at the apple, is much likelier to seek out, say, a 10-year deal or 11 or 12 years, one of the not quite Juan Soto level, but a contract of that ilk, more than a shorter term, higher average annual value deal like the Dodgers would want.
Okay, because I was waiting for you to say this fellow Murakami who's been posted today. He'll just be the latest guy from Japan who wants to play for the Dodgers, willing to defer everything to 2042. You know what I mean? Maybe he wants to. Where does he fit? The Dodgers just picked up Max Muncy's option. Murakami plays third base. The Dodgers have Freddie Freeman at first base. He's not going anywhere. And they have Shohei Ohtani at DH. Murakami's probably not athletic enough to be an outfielder. He's much likelier to be an infielder. So I don't know that the fit is there. But then again, if he wants to sign for below market value just because he wants to go to the Dodgers, then get out of here. At that point,
get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. There's a team in New England, Jeff, that has a hole at third base.
Well, the Yankees too, man. You're going to be kidding me. The Yankees have a massive glaring hole at third base that I thought they were going to fill with the guy you filled it with last year in Alex Bregman, who just opted out.
Now you can get him.
So I botched the fella's name, Murakami.
Munetaka Murakami.
Tell us about him, please. Tell us about him.
At 22 years old, Rich, he set the single season record in Nippon professional baseball for home runs hit by a Japanese-born player, breaking a record that Sadaharu Oh had owned since 1964. Murakami has enormous power, the kind of power that dynasties have been built upon. And yet he's got a glaring flaw in that he swings and misses a lot.
Oh,
and
perfect
he strikes
Yankee.
Out a lot.
That's a perfect Yankee. I mean, honestly, like Cashman's probably going all the way over there to personally, bring him over on the Steinbrenner jet. That sounds like a perfect Yankee, Jeff. Perfect.
It's really interesting to me, Rich. I'm curious to see how this offseason players who have extreme bat-to-ball skills are valued by the industry, considering that the Toronto Blue Jays made the World Series in large part because of their ability to put the bat on the ball.
You bet.
And as a baseball fan, as someone who my whole life I have just adored this game, man, I loved watching the Blue Jays play. What a fun team to watch, not just because of the bat to ball, but because they were able to combine that with superior slug as well. It shows the two are not mutually exclusive. If you're hitting the ball, you don't have to hit it soft. You can have your cake and eat it too. And on top of that, the defense that the Blue Jays played, like they were just a really fundamentally sound team. And Bichette's return, I think did him a great service going into free agency this offseason, knowing that he is not at 100% by any means. His knee was messed up. He was out for 7 weeks, and he came back and essentially looked like he hadn't lost a step, playing a position that he hadn't played since when he was in the minor leagues. I mean, it was just a phenomenal performance by him. And his free agency, among Tucker and Framber Valdez and Dylan Cease and Pete Alonso, there are a lot of big names, Alex Bregman. Like, it's going to be a really interesting winter in terms of free agents and seeing where they land. And Bichette, to me, is near the top of the list of those interesting players because our team's going to want him as a shortstop, where he was below average defensively last season. Are they going to move him to second or third base? What does a guy like him, who's, his value is best tied to his ability to hit for average, right? Mm-hmm. And batting average is just not something, generally speaking, that's valued at a high level in Major League Baseball. And yet Bichette's also got slug. He doesn't strike out. There's more to it than batting average, but that's one of those components. It's going to be nice to see it get paid this offseason because I think batting average does still matter.
Of course it does. I'm with you. They were a fun team to watch. You're right, the Blue Jays. So in the few minutes I have left with you here, as we're off and running on the hot stove, the four-letter word in many front offices, Boris. How is he looming, and his clients looming, whether they're free agents or not, Jeff, over the next few weeks?
Well, I think it's going to be the next few months because, Rich, you're used to normal free agency where everything happens in the NFL at one time.
Yes.
Like I was getting tweets yesterday, like announce a signing. I was like, you guys don't understand how baseball works, do you? Like it's going to be a little while until we get the big signings. But Scott Boras, as in every year, has a pretty impressive roster. Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, a Japanese pitcher named Tatsuya Emai, who you should keep an eye on because Emai is really interesting to me in that he looks like a Yoshinobu Yamamoto starter kit. They are the same size at 5'11", and yet they both throw gas, topping out at 99 or so. Emai's breaking stuff is very good. He doesn't throw a splitter quite as much as Yamamoto doesn't rely on that, but he has been healthy. He has put up phenomenal numbers in NPB, and he's going to be another guy who's going to be $100+ million pitcher. And it's going to be really interesting to me to see what the market for Japanese players, from Murakami to Amai, Kazuma Okamoto, like there's some real guys who could be coming over this winter, and the market for them is going to be super interesting to me because all the consternation about the Dodgers and the dynasty that they've built. There are organizations out there and owners especially who just want to chip away at what the Dodgers have. And the Dodgers' advantage in Japan right now is enormous to the point where we're joking, all of them are going to go and sign with the Dodgers at this point. Right. And yet, that there are owners right now going to their general managers and saying, we need someone from Japan on this team right now, if only so we can get into this marketplace for down the road when players, more players come over that were in consideration. And sometimes geographical elements factor in heavily. A lot of guys want to stay on the West Coast because of the much shorter flight back home to Japan. Other guys want to go to New York because New York's New York. And it's, you can't argue with that. And yet I think we're going to see some surprising teams this winter in on Japanese players, just trying to get a foothold in that place that has produced as much talent as it has over the last half decade, especially.
Yeah, good luck with multiple MVP in Ohtani and the reigning World Series MVP in Yamamoto saying to anybody, hey, why don't you come here? We're all comfortable. We're all having a good time. What about Skubal? I know, the Tigers would love to re-sign him, and you're hearing money that's definitely usually not very Tiger-like. What about that? How does that loom over anything, Jeff?
Not only would the Tigers like to resign Tarik Skubal, Tarik Skubal would like to stay in Detroit too. He really likes it there. He loves A.J. Hinch. Chris Fetter and Robin Lund, the pitching coaches there, are excellent. And they're the organization that not only took a chance on him, but helped him turn into the best pitcher in the world. And yet, Tarik Skubal's a free agent after this season in 2026. And he is going to command, as long as he stays healthy, more money than any pitcher in baseball history. Right now, the number is $325 million for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Skubal is primed to absolutely smash that. And if he's not going to agree to a long-term contract with the Tigers, and generally speaking, Scott Boras clients don't sign extensions, especially this close to free agency. There are exceptions, but by and large, that's the case. If you're the Tigers, you have to ask yourself the question, if we're losing him at the end of this season and all we're going to get out of it is a draft pick, then is it worth it potentially to consider trading him? Now, where the Tigers are at in their aspirations, both in 2026 and going forward, it makes sense for them to move him. And yet, trading a guy of that ilk is a really, really hard thing to do. As much sense as it might make from a long-term perspective, there are psychological elements that are involved with the fan base and with the organization and with the players in your clubhouse, where it's like, if we're going to move this guy, then what are we doing? What's the point? This is the person around whom you build to go and win World Series. And you're telling me that we're going to get rid of him after 2 consecutive years of postseason appearances? It seems like a silly thing to do. It seems like a frivolous thing to do. And that's the issue right now in Major League Baseball. It's how many teams, Rich, if they were in this similar position, would have the same thoughts that the Tigers are having right now. And the number, frankly, it's too high. It's unfortunate. And that's why there is so much consternation among fans when it comes to the economic system in Major League Baseball. If you feel like the best thing for you to do, and not only if you feel like that, but if numbers and models tell you that the best thing for you to do is to get rid of the star player that you drafted, that you developed, that you helped turn into this monster that he is right now, what does that say about the sport?
Yeah. And then this will be for another time. Why make a deal if you're Skubal or the Tigers if the collective bargaining agreement's elapsing and the rules can be completely changed and you have no idea how this contract fits into the future of the sport?
That's right? A fair thing. I mean, I'm just operating, Rich, under the idea that the economic system is not going to change demonstrably to the point that it would have any ill effect on the future of the Tigers. But perhaps I'm just operating that way because I'm trying to be optimistic amid the labor strife that's happening right now. And that's going to be the story of the 2026 season, because the collective bargaining agreement is up December 1st, 2026. Everybody in the industry is anticipating a lockout. A lockout in and of itself, not a great thing, not a terrible thing. It's when a lockout starts bleeding into the next year and games are potentially missed that it turns tremendously problematic. We haven't seen games missed in Major League Baseball, Rich, in 30 plus years at this point. And as somebody who adores the game, I'm hoping that we don't see that streak ended.
Certainly off a World Series that everybody is talking about and everybody watched in 2 different countries, or 3. Obviously, you include Japan. Jeff,
50 million plus people, man. Like,
isn't that amazing?
Those are real numbers,
Yes, they are.
Those are really impressive.
Jeff, you're the best, man. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Keep looking for more of my texts and calls, and thank you. Appreciate it.
Can't wait, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.